This is the part 3 of creating an ebook cover design tutorial. So we just masked out the unwanted areas of the bark. Now we're going to take the bark texture out of his eyes because we look at people's eyes, we want to clearly see them. And right now they look kind of like roasted raisins, which is a little bit gross. So again, we're still on the layer mask. You have black as your foreground color, which if you don't have it, hit D to get the default and X to put black in front. I have my brush tool, so B to get your brush, and I can do this a couple of ways. You can either paint it out like we did everything else to show, or if you want to crisply define it, let's use a different way. I'm going to use my pen tool. You can use a lasso or whatever way is comfortable for you. You can create an outline with a pen tool very quickly with smooth lines and then hit Command Return or Enter to make it into a selection. And if I flip over to my layer mask, I see that there's the little bit that I painted. I want to fill this all up with edge, so because I want to fill it with black, I'm going to do Option Delete, which will fill that selection area with my foreground color, and then hold down Option and click on the layer mask and you can see the picture part again. Command D to deselect. That looks pretty good. Let's do the other eye. Pen tool, which is P. So I'm selecting the area I want to take the bark out of. Command Return to turn it into a selection, and Option Delete to fill it with black on the layer mask. And when I deselect, I can see there's actually that worked out okay. Maybe I won't do that. There's the little edge of his eye right here, and this is a small detail, so I might want to grab my brush tool and just clear out just that little bit that I missed before, so that we can see where his eye folds in. I'll come over and do this to the other. If you're wondering at all how I'm panning around, you can just hold down spacebar at any time to get that hand tool, the navigation tool. Okay, that looks a lot better. There's a couple other spots. I want to soften the look of this so that we can see clearly the outlines of his face. So the one that jumps out at me most is right here by his nose. So I've got my brush tool. I'm going to reduce the opacity down to about 25% so that when I paint, it doesn't immediately remove all of the detail, and just go over a few times that area of his nose, just to let that line show through. And if I remove too much accidentally, I'm going to increase my opacity, get white as my foreground color, and paint some of it back in. So mask out the area that you want his face to actually show through, such as fine lines and details. So you just have to do this according to what you think looks good. I'm going to hit a couple spots on his fingers that could use a little more detail. And I know these are just really, really small things that you probably can't see much of a difference on, but in the end, it makes it a lot easier to see what this guy is and to appreciate some of the detail that was there in the original photo, like these awesome wrinkles on his fingers. And maybe even restore some of the shape of the finger, because see, this part of the texture was a little too bright right to the edge. And when an object folds over, there's actually some shadow there. So I love how this looks on his hand. It looks like he dipped his hand in paint and the paint's kind of flaking and dried off. In fact, I like that look enough. I might take some of this texture off. Whoops. Undo if you do something like that. That was me accidentally duplicating it. Make sure you're on the layer mask and not flipped over accidentally to the picture itself, because we don't want to erase off of that image. By using those layer masks, we can give ourselves a lot of room to go back and tweak and edit and adjust on a project like this without making a unretrievable step. Alright, looks like there's just a couple more spots. We are just about to the end of this bit of the tutorial. And I'm going to use kind of a bigger brush and on a low opacity just sort of soften here on his ears that look. My opacity keeps flipping clear down to 1. I'm not quite sure why. Sometimes odd stuff like that happens. I am using a pen tablet to do some of this brushing, and it can snag a little, if you will, you know, catch the tablet when you're not really expecting it, and click and drag something again where you're not really expecting it. So we've got a lot of the detail showing back up, and I think that's quite an improvement. So this is all we're doing with the bark layer. So this is a good point to save. Command S, save your progress, and we'll go on to the next step.